As we reach the end of Digital Circus madness and enter the big wait for episode 5 of the series, I wanted to take the time to actually watch the Raggedy Ann and Andy musical movie. The Amazing Digital Circus is said to take a lot of inspiration from this movie and franchise. Not just with the character of Ragatha, who is clearly modeled after Raggedy Ann, but Ragatha ends up even quoting the movie while on Stupid Sauce in episode 4. And the connections go to even crazier places beyond that, like the crazy candy monster. My name is Deepcut, friends call me Deep in the Box, and let's dive into it. Now, the Raggedy Ann story begins over 100 years ago, in the year 1918, when Johnny Gruelle would create the first Raggedy Ann children's book based on an old rag doll that he had liked the design for, with Johnny Gruelle putting a more original smile on its face. This was like a 100-year-old prequel to Toy Story, focusing on the lives of toys inside of a young girl's nursery when she wasn't in the room, very similar to Buzz and Woody. This is important because the Raggedy Ann movie doesn't just inspire Ragatha's character in the Digital Circus, but clearly has inspired the Digital Circus with its approach to characters being trapped inside of toys, giving us a perspective from inside of children's entertainment, with the characters being toys but also trapped in a video game. 2 years after the introduction of Raggedy Ann, Raggedy Andy would be introduced as her brother, in an attempt to appeal more to boys. Now, Raggedy Ann is obviously a big influence on the character of Ragatha in the show, with many fans thinking it's not just her design that influenced Ragatha, but also her character. We see this with other characters like Zooble, who had body dysmorphia in reality outside of the game. This led to Zooble's character being a representative of their inner issues, making Zooble a toy that has interchangeable parts that allow you to customize yourself. This allows Zooble to explore changing themselves on the outside to try and find what feels right for them, though they still admit to struggling despite this. With that in mind, many fans expect Ragatha to have a Raggedy Andy type brother that she is taking care of in the show, either in the real world or even in the Digital Circus. Kinger, after all, has his own backstory of being trapped in the game with his wife Queenie, who appeared as a Black Queen chess piece in order to balance out Kinger, of course, being the White King. Some fans believe that with Ragatha, there may have been a rag boy that was in the circus as well before eventually abstracting. We haven't seen this character's image X'd out on a door to a room, but we also haven't seen all the doors yet, I believe, and some may even have their X'd out characters removed if it makes someone there uncomfortable to still see their face. Some fans want to believe this brother is Jax, who came in as a different styled character, but this doesn't quite match the Raggedy Ann and Andy dynamic. The Raggedy siblings are wholesome children's characters, and Raggedy Ann was conceived to represent the kind of ideal humble daughter, one who smiles and is polite and always has something to try and make things better. Andy and Ann are not antagonistic siblings like we might imagine with Ragatha and Jax, but instead, Andy was created to be the ideal role model for a brother. Instead of constantly arguing or getting into fights, the 1977 animated film has the two of them singing about how much they love each other and how important it is that they balance each other out. Andy can have a rougher side, as he was designed to help appeal to boys, and the musical film even has Andy singing an entire song about how he hates being a girl's toy because he's a boy and likes doing boy things. This was mostly just to appeal to boys and try to convince them that it wasn't girly to like the Raggedy Ann books and to convince them that being a good brother was something worth doing. But this just doesn't fit with Jax and Ragatha. When on the Stupid Sauce, I'd say that Jax makes it clear that the two really don't know each other from the world before the circus, with Ragatha's remarks about how she hates Jax but wants him to like her. Jax's reaction is not one of familiarity, and instead, even the way he says that Ragatha is drunk or something indicates that he really has no idea about her habits and behaviors or history to know what is actually going on with her, just knowing that she is in some sort of messed up state. Though it should be mentioned that Gooseworks said the next episode isn't just about Ragatha, but is in many ways a Ragatha and Jax episode, so that can go a lot of different ways with all this. Now, the real kicker with the recent episode 4 was that Ragatha actually quotes the movie after getting hit by the Stupid Sauce.
Packages landing on my head, tea parties, dancing lessons.
This is the sauce that makes Ragatha act drunk, as Jax says, with others referring to the effects as similar to huffing paint. But the point is that Ragatha just wasn't in a sober state. At one point in this state, she says that she misses having horses, which was a very random line that got a lot of fans buzzing about Ragatha's backstory. Later, she also mentioned being hurt enough by falling packages and having tea parties and dancing lessons. Because of this, a lot of fans, myself included, theorized that Ragatha may have come from a rich family, the kind where you have tea parties and dancing lessons and horse stables. This wasn't just because of this line, of course, but rather it was seen as reinforcing the idea in this episode that Ragatha put on this act of being nice like a fake socialite, wanting people to like her for being polite even if she actually hates them. The line about falling packages didn't quite make sense, however, and fans who had seen the Raggedy musical movie were quick to point out that this was a direct line from the film.
Packages landed on my head, tea parties, dancing lessons.
This is a line that Raggedy Andy sings and not Raggedy Anne, with this being from the song we discussed earlier, where Raggedy Andy sings about how much he hates being a girl's toy. The tea party and dance lessons that he talks about are the games that their owner Marcel would play with them, with imaginative tea parties being the most stereotypical little girl game. The part about the falling packages actually refers to a plot point in the movie where a gift sent for Marcel's birthday in the mail ends up being left on top of Andy. Because of that, some fans think this is just a fun way to reference the movie, but to others, it's meant to be a reference that also tells us more about Ragatha's backstory, as the other things she said while in this state don't seem to be references to the movie. Specifically, her comment about once having horses. There is one Raggedy Ann book about helping a toy horse, but not horses, and the Raggedy movie doesn't seem to have toy horses around the nursery, or if they do, it's for a quick moment that I didn't see. Because of that, some fans want to believe that the tea parties and dance lessons line was something Ragatha parroted because it was relevant to her life while also remembering the movie. To others, however, the fact that it's a line from the movie means that only the horse line is relevant, meaning that she could have just grown up in a toxic family on a farm that required her to act very proper and self-censor, with the horses being her only real friends. It would make sense with her being a rag doll, which is considered something of a more poor children's toy, but to me, it really could go either way. Another really weird similarity between the show and the movie is the candy monster we can see in both. In the digital circus, we meet this candy monster in episode 2, when Kane creates him as a bad guy for the gang to face in the Candy Kingdom. This is a very obvious recreation of the candy monster that the Raggedy siblings meet in their musical adventure, which is honestly way more disturbing in 2D. Don't get me wrong, the animation for the film is wild as a whole, with the entire thing just being very trippy. But when it came to the candy monster scene, there was just something extra gross about its execution that the 3D candy monster just doesn't have. Now, in-world, the explanation is likely that Kane is aware of children's media outside of his game, and likely just copies what he knows kids are supposed to like in his little adventures. But for the production of the show itself, it's really just a fun tribute to the movie, which clearly was such an inspiration to the show. This makes the candy monster not really a ripoff from the movie, but a smaller nod within the show that lets you know the movie was an inspiration thematically. Its actual story is so wildly different, though, that movies like Toy Story ironically owe a much bigger debt to Raggedy Ann. But what do you guys think? I have only seen the Raggedy Ann and Andy movie just recently to make this video, but some fans keep insisting there's even deeper connections than what I seem to be able to put together here. So if you're one of those nerds, sound off in the comments down below, and we'll be sure to try and address it when the show returns with episode 5. Until then, I put together a playlist containing all of our digital circus theories for episode 4, and another putting together our top most relevant theories for the series as a whole, so make sure you go check those out. I hope you all have a happy new year, and I'll see you guys next time.